There comes a moment, quiet, unassuming, when a man realizes the most powerful thing he could ever offer is nothing. No pleading, no reacting, no emotional performances, just calm, grounded stillness. She didn't expect that. She expected noise, expected you to explain yourself, to overcompensate, to spiral. That's the script the world wrote for men like us. But when you go silent, not from anger, but from discipline, you introduce her to a kind of strength she's never known. A strength that doesn't chase. A strength that doesn't need her to understand in order to be at peace. This is the power she never saw coming. Not because it's manipulative, but because it's so rare. A man who holds his ground without raising his voice. A man who doesn't try to prove his worth because he already lives in it. That's the kind of presence a woman remembers. Not the man who begged to be kept, but the man who walked away with dignity intact. And that's where we confront a truth most men were never taught. That the modern script of love, softness at all costs, obedience disguised as kindness, was not written to make you strong. It was written to make you silent in all the wrong ways. To suppress the part of you that leads, that protects, that sets boundaries, that builds. You were told to give her everything, to put her first, to treat her emotions like commandments. You were told to serve in the name of love and to submit in the name of peace. And when it didn't work, when she lost respect for you, you were told to give even more. But you and I both know it only made things worse. Because no woman is drawn to a man who abandons himself. She's drawn to the man who holds frame even when she tries to shake it. She may never say it aloud, but deep down she craves someone she can lean into. Someone who will not crumble under her doubt or bend every time her moods shift. If your confidence requires her reassurance, it isn't confidence. It's dependence, and dependence breeds resentment. Stoicism teaches us a forgotten truth. That love without self-respect is just emotional servitude. That the only way to be trusted is to be unshakable. When you become the man who values his purpose above her presence, you become the rarest kind of man. One who commands loyalty not through demand, but through direction. One who never has to yell to be heard, never has to beg to be remembered. You gain power not when you control her, but when you refuse to give her control over you. When you love without attachment, when your emotions inform you but don't rule you. When your boundaries are quietly unbreakable, not because you're cold, but because you've done the hard work of knowing exactly who you are. And if she chooses to walk away from that, let her. You were not built to orbit someone else's needs. You were built to create gravity through your presence, your values, your vision. So don't shrink for love. Expand in it, stand in it, and if necessary, walk alone in it. That is where true power lives, in the man who leads himself so clearly that she either rises to meet him or gets left behind by her own uncertainty. This isn't about becoming heartless. It's about becoming whole. And in that wholeness, you no longer wait to be chosen. You simply become the man who doesn't need to ask, because he already knows he's enough. If you're still watching, it's because something in you knows or remembers that you were not made to chase, to plead, to perform. You were made to stand, to build, to lead. And yet, in the silence of rejection, in the ache of being overlooked, many men forget this truth. But not all is lost, because there is a path back. A path to something far deeper than charm, louder than words, and more enduring than attraction. That path is built on 5 pillars. Pillars that no woman can shake, no silence can dissolve, and no rejection can define. First, detachment without bitterness. To be detached does not mean you do not feel. It means you are not ruled by what you feel. It means you have chosen not to let external approval dictate your internal worth. Detachment, when practiced with grace, is not a weapon. It's a boundary. A man who can walk away not out of anger but out of clarity becomes unforgettable. She may not understand it. She may misread it as indifference, but deep down she feels it. This man respects himself too much to remain where he is not honored. And that realization lingers longer than any apology or argument. Second, emotional sovereignty. A Stoic man is not a stone. He bleeds like everyone else, but he bleeds inward. He masters his emotion so it may serve him, not sabotage him. Your ability to hold stillness in the face of chaos is what defines your strength. When she withdraws, when she tests your ground, she is not always seeking to destroy it. Sometimes she is seeking to believe in it. If you crumble under the weight of every mood swing, every silence, every challenge, what you're telling her is, you are more grounded than I am. And in that moment, the polarity collapses, emotional sovereignty restores it. You lead not by reacting, but by remaining rooted. Third, vision beyond her. You cannot be the man she admires if she is the center of your world. The man she respects walks with direction. He wakes up not for her approval, but for his purpose. He creates before he consumes. He reflects before he reacts. He does not beg to be loved. He becomes so aligned with his calling that love finds him in the overflow. When your life is built around something larger than any single person, you become magnetic. Your mission is not a distraction from love. It is the fire that makes love possible without dependency. Fourth, boundaries that breathe. True masculine energy is not rigid, it is structured. A boundary is not a wall, it is a frame. It tells the world, this is where I begin, and this is what I will not compromise. You don't yell to be respected. You live in such alignment with your standards that compromise becomes unnecessary. And when a woman sees you say no calmly, not with aggression, but with certainty, she feels something rare, safety. Not just emotional safety, but spiritual safety. Because you've shown her that her chaos will not pull you from your values. And that's what she truly needs, not control, but containment. Death, presence over performance. You gain nothing by proving. You lose everything by pretending. The man who needs to impress loses his essence in the effort. But the man who is simply present, fully, honestly, unapologetically, becomes unforgettable. Presence is rare. It's not loud. It doesn't explain itself. It holds eye contact. It listens without needing to fix. It chooses its words carefully because it knows silence speaks louder than desperation. Presence is what a woman craves when her soul is tired of games. And the man who lives in presence becomes the man who no longer needs to prove he is enough. These are not tactics. These are not tricks. These are truths, ancient, tested, and transformative. If you've lost yourself trying to win her, then this is your way back. Rebuild on these 5 pillars. Reclaim the part of you that you abandoned for love. Because you were never meant to shrink to be seen. You were meant to stand so tall in your own frame that anyone who cannot meet you there simply fades away. And when that happens, when your power no longer depends on anyone else's recognition, you won't have to chase. Because you've become the one thing she never expected. A man at peace in his own skin, powerful in his own silence, and already whole before she ever arrived. What she feels from you isn't in your words. It never was. It's in the silence between them, in how you hold yourself when no one's looking, in the stillness of your gaze when she tests your patience, or the calm of your tone when she expects reaction. That's where your real presence lives. Not in the way you impress, but in the way you remain. And that, more than anything, is what she responds to. Most men think attraction is built externally, in looks, gestures, performances. But the truth is, long before she falls for your frame or your voice, she has already sensed the quality of your inner world. It's instinctual. It's ancient. She's not consciously looking for charm, she's scanning for safety. Not physical safety, but emotional safety. The kind of stability that only comes from a man who has faced himself in silence and come out stronger. This is why Stoicism isn't cold. It's not emotional detachment or suppression. It's emotional maturity. It's presence without pretense. It's the discipline to feel everything and still choose how you act. When you carry that within, she doesn't need you to prove anything. She feels your depth before you say a word. She knows that you're not reacting to her because you've already resolved your inner chaos. And that makes her feel like she can rest near you. Not perform, not please, just rest. You may not realize it, but she's always listening to your energy. She notices when your attention is fractured, when your confidence is shallow, when your values are borrowed instead of built. But the moment she meets a man whose sense of self is forged, not flattered into existence, something shifts. Because that man doesn't try to impress. He doesn't sell himself, he simply is. And the weight of that being is more compelling than any chase. That's what separates boys from men. Boys seek to be liked, men seek to be true. And truth carries a frequency that cannot be faked. It's in the way you walk into a room and don't need to dominate it. It's in how you speak to her, not to win her, but because your words already come from a place of peace. It's in how you're not shaken when she pulls away, because you're not orbiting her approval, you're grounded in your purpose. And here's the part most miss. She may not understand it with words, but she feels it with certainty. The same way you can feel when someone is lying, she can feel when a man is self-possessed. The result? She stops testing. She starts trusting. Because she knows, maybe for the first time, she's standing next to a man who doesn't need her to define him. And that kind of man isn't just attractive. He's rare. So if you've been wondering why silence draws her closer, or why a calm presence speaks louder than passion, this is it. You've built something within that resonates far beyond appearance or performance. You've become a man whose peace is louder than noise, whose energy is disciplined, whose love is not a plea but a gift freely offered, never begged for. And when a woman feels that, she either rises to meet it or fades away without a word. Either way, you remain unmoved, because what she feels is not you trying to keep her, but you being so whole, she realizes she was never meant to complete you. You cannot lead others until you first return to the seat of your own soul. That's the throne most men abandon, not because someone took it from them, but because they gave it away inch by inch, compromise by compromise. They forgot what it means to be grounded in their own values, to choose their mission over momentary approval, to walk in the clarity of self-direction rather than the fog of emotional need. Reclaiming that throne isn't about ego. It isn't about dominance. It's about order, inner order, the kind that no woman, no insult, no silence, and no storm can shake. Because once you return to yourself, not the self that was wounded or broken, but the self that has been forged by fire, you become a man the world must reckon with. This reinvention doesn't happen in a single night. It's not born out of rage or reaction. It's built in solitude, in stillness, in choosing again and again to rise above distraction and step back into discipline. That's where the Stoic man is reborn. Not in applause, but in quiet refusal. Refusal to be swayed by emotion. Refusal to explain his value. Refusal to negotiate with anything that insults his purpose. He doesn't rebuild to be seen. He rebuilds because the man he's becoming cannot be delayed anymore. He trains not for aesthetics, but for clarity. He reads not to impress, but to sharpen. He meditates not to escape, but to prepare. He rewires his patterns not because someone demanded it, but because he's finally tired of betraying his own standard. And when that reinvention takes shape, not in performance, but in presence, it speaks for him. It enters the room before he does. It defines his boundaries without needing loud declarations. It brings peace because it is peace. The Stoic man doesn't return to prove anything to her. He doesn't come back seeking recognition from those who doubted him. He walks forward without needing permission, because power is not what he chases, it's what he becomes. And in that transformation, something remarkable happens. People feel the difference, not because you told them, but because your stillness holds weight, because your words became fewer, but your presence grew louder. And any woman who meets this new version of you will know immediately, she's either in the presence of a man or of a mountain. So no, reinvention isn't cosmetic. It's foundational. It's the act of saying, I'm done living as a reaction to others. I'm done asking to be chosen. I am the chooser now. That's not arrogance. That's alignment. And that throne within you, it's been waiting all along. Now it's time to sit back down in it, shoulders square, eyes clear, heart still. You're not rebuilding to win anyone back. You're rebuilding because the man you're meant to become can't afford for you to delay any longer. Maybe the greatest lie you've ever been told is that love is something you earn by shrinking yourself, softening your voice, or bending your values. But if you've come this far, you already know the truth. Real power doesn't beg, it doesn't perform, and it doesn't chase. Real power is silent. It moves with quiet certainty. It stands firm when others pull away. It speaks without words through how you show up in your own life. You don't gain power over any woman by controlling her. You gain it by no longer needing her to validate you. You rise when you stop asking for seats at someone else's table and start building your own. You lead when your actions no longer orbit her attention, but revolve around your own inner mission. And something beautiful happens in that space, without you forcing it, without you proving it. When you lead yourself, others naturally want to follow. And yes, love can grow in that soil. But love is no longer the goal. It becomes a byproduct, a natural consequence of who you've become. This isn't about detachment for the sake of coldness. It's about building a life of purpose so deep, so solid, that even if someone walks away, nothing collapses. You remain. You stay whole. Because you no longer ask love to do the job of purpose. You know who you are without her. You know where you're going, even if no one claps for you along the way. That's Stoicism. Not a shield, but a standard. A way of living that refuses to hand over your peace for temporary pleasure or approval. So let me ask you now, as one man to another, what would change in your life if you stopped trying to be chosen and started choosing yourself every single day? If something in you stirred while listening, don't ignore it. That's the part of you that's been silent too long. That's the part of you that's ready to lead. If this spoke to something inside you, let it keep speaking. Don't let the clarity fade. Drop a comment below and write, "I build from stillness." Not just as a phrase, but as a declaration. Subscribe to this channel, not just for more content, but because you've decided to live differently now. This space, this philosophy, it's not for the crowd. It's for men like you. Men willing to rise through stillness, lead through discipline, and let love find them, not because they begged for it, but because they became worthy of it. This is ultimate Stoicism, and this is your beginning.